I was a junior in high school. I had just finished my junior year, and she and her club organized and planned a skating party to Lima, Ohio at the Dixie roller rink. We skated for some time, not real long, and I noticed this nice-looking young lady scooting around the rink, but she didn't skate well. So another friend and I, Morris Shepard, asked if we could skate with her and what they called a trio skate. All right, so I continued to skate with this charming young lady, and we found out her name was Jane Schultz. The friend of mine was Morris Shepard, and we had a couple of skates around the rink, and all of a sudden I noticed, because Jeannie said, "That's my sister," going around on the other side, and I noticed that she was one good-looking gal. So then I ran around and caught up with Alice and asked her if I could skate with her, and we skated the rest of the night together. And at the end of the evening, I asked her if she was thirsty, and she said she was. And so we went over to the concession stand, and I bought her a Coke or a Pepsi. I don't remember which it was. And I said, "I hope this isn't the last Pepsi I ever buy for you." And that then ended the evening. But
Hello, I am Brittany. I was Grandpa's favorite granddaughter until Maddie was born. And then I became his favorite oldest granddaughter. I didn't mind sharing because there was another girl in the family. I was very happy. So I had something written, but then everyone said it all. So instead, I'm going to read some other stuff that people just handed me. I'd like to tell a short story about how Grandma and Grandpa met. She's told this story a lot of times this week. It's really special. Dad met Mom at Lima roller rink. He was 16 and she was 18. They skated. First he skated with Aunt Janie. Didn't know that detail. This could have gone a lot differently. It says, I'm not making this up, it says, "I guess there weren't any sparks." So then he saw Mom. He asked her on the moonlight skate, and they skated around and around and held hands. And then he bought her a Pepsi, and he said, "I hope this isn't the last Pepsi I ever buy you." So 65 years later, and then these are some words that Grandma wrote down this week. Grandma remembers that Bill was a wonderful photographer. He was a faithful husband, a very hard worker. He loved his family. He loved the Lord. She tells the story of when she was in the hospital laboring with my dad, my Joe, their first child. She had been in labor for a very long time, and he slept on the floor next to her bed, which was concrete. Of course, he loved genealogy. He was a wonderful gardener. He would help her tend the garden. He would plant and help her can everything and freeze all of their produce. And she even went and bought a pressure canner so they could get more done. He always bought her pretty clothes. You see in the slideshow, all of her outfits he picked out. The flashier, the better. And just this last April, he threw a beautiful surprise birthday party for her. And I think that might be the last time our whole family was gathered. And that was a really special day. Okay. So just a few of my favorite memories. Yes, of course he was a great cook. Everyone talked about that. And we all loved his food. So I'll tell a story of when things didn't maybe go so well. And Ryan and I were little kids, and we were spending the evening at his house, and he served sauerkraut. And at that day, in those days, he was still you have to try everything on your plate kind of guy. Well, after that night, he didn't do that anymore. Ryan threw up all over the table.
I still hate California.
Yeah, he was always trying to teach us things. Always teaching. One of my earliest memories is when I was just a little girl. He taught me how to get dust out of your eye. It works like a charm. If you want to know, I'll tell you afterwards. He taught me how to make homemade butter. When I was in elementary school, he came to my class as a special teacher and taught us, my whole class, about his trip to Alaska. And I was so proud to have my grandpa there. And I still think Alaska is the most magical place, and you better take me there one day. He took me to the East Coast, and he showed me the wild ponies of Chincoteague. He took us boating and fishing on the Florida Gulf and let me drive the boat. One time, I needed a ride to work when I was about 15, and I had my temps. I don't know where Mom and Dad were, but he was on duty. So he drove out and got me. He got there 20 minutes early, blared on the horn, got around into the passenger seat, buckled in, and I came out all a tizzy because I was 15 and I wasn't ready yet. And I was like, he drove up in that great big blue van that he had. And he wanted me to drive. He said, I've never driven anything like this. I can't do it. And you know what he did? He just sat there, stone cold, would not even look at me. No acknowledgement. He didn't even say anything. He just said, you're driving. So I did. You couldn't break him down. Of course, he loved people. I heard a quote somewhere, life is relationships. Everything else is just details. And that was Grandpa.
Amen.
Everywhere he went, he made new friends. Everyone in this room, he sat down and talked to at one point, I'm sure. He saw you. He wanted to know your story. He wanted to know how you ticked, who God made you to be. He saw each person, and he never forgot a detail. Of course, he loved us grandkids the most. Each one of us. He was always keeping up with what we were doing. We started dating somebody. He started their genealogy right away. Which was good, because you don't want to date your cousin and not know it. When I was in middle school, I thought I wanted to be a judge. I went through a little phase, so I thought that was a thing. And so he set me up with a day of shadowing at a law firm, and I thought that was pretty cool. Me and Grandma went down there. Remember that, Grandma? And I spent the whole day with lawyers, and it was really fun. And then I left that day, and I knew I would never go to law school. But I wouldn't have known that if he hadn't set that up for me. I could have wasted a lot of time. You know, they were with us whenever, whatever was happening, they were always there. And I think I took it for granted. But now, you know, we have kids of our own, and we know it's not about the event. It's about the person. He saw to it that our families always got together, were loud and fun and musical and goofy, and we got a little too noisy to go out in public. So he built a great big room on the back of the house for us, and we filled it up with memories. It's a beautiful place. So I want to finish with my own top 10 list, but it'll be real quick. Advice that I think Grandpa would give. A couple of these are direct ones. Number 1, never stop learning. Number 2, try everything at least once, except sauerkraut. Number 3, take adventures often. Number 4, care about where you came from. Number 5, listen to people. Number 6, love God with all your heart. Number 7, love your family to the end. Number 8, if your pants won't stay up, wear suspenders. Number 9 is a direct quote. If you can't get it on Amazon or Costco, you don't need it. Number 10 is that quote. Ladies and gentlemen, take my advice, hold down your pants and slide on the ice.
One of his great accomplishments, and I don't know if this was in the list or not, but he was a businessman. When Sarah and I were in high school, he wanted to find a way for us to be in Christian school, more than Christian. And so he continued to work during the day and started a photo lab at night. It's processing E4 slide film. By the way, I can't look at y'all.
You can do it.
He started that business, never had done any of that in his life, and he learned how to process in a black room. And he had a successful business that put us able to pay for Christian school for 2 years before Sarah and I both went to Fort Hays Career Center. Later on, all the boys went through it as well. That was an amazing thing. The greatest thing I want to just share with you, this was Saturday night, and Dad reminded me of this. And I was frantically writing this down on my phone, on my notes, and my thumbs were flying. He reminded me that when he was in the first grade, I have a lot of holes in my mouth right now. Grandma Krause made sure he went to Vacation Bible School his first grade year there in Ada. So that was his first exposure to the Lord. And later on, as a young adult, he walked the Billy Sunday Sawgrass Trail. Thanks to Virgil and Helen Mauser. Made sure he got his butt up there. Except the Lord. Around that same time, Mom walked the Ford Philpott Trail. Because of Aunt Joe and Uncle John. Ann and Uncle Joe made sure that she got saved. Here's the hard one I have to read. So in spite of, Dad said, all of my personal shortcomings, I made sure to raise my kids in the church. That goal was accomplished. Here's the hard one. Oh, and I mean another one. This was from Dad's Christmas letter, 2020. Long letters. Now that we're in the last quarter of our life, this farm boy has accomplished more than I ever thought I could dream possible. Good education, learned to fly, traveled to all but 2 states and 4 foreign countries. Alice by my side, helping and encouraging me all along. I'm so blessed to have 4 children and 3 and their families, all loving and serving the Lord.
There's a time when your father goes from being your dad to being your dad and your friend. And I can still remember that day. And just those phone calls, time with him. He wasn't the easiest man to live with, okay? But that's growing up, not now, of course, it's been awesome, but, growing up, of course, I was a teenager, so I was bullheaded too. I get that. But he was there, I've struggled with what to say today, so I'm going to list the top 10 things on my dad today, okay? And that's all it's the best I can do about my father. Number 10. The Stoll photo lab, you just mentioned, he was an entrepreneur, but again, a lot of this you're going to hear me say is just I love being with him. Okay, those were 2 years that he was so busy, and I remember just sitting in a Stoll photo lab on the floor, or going to this lab and watching him create was just, to me in 3rd grade, was just mind blowing. I just loved to be next to him. Number 9, his photography to this day is incredible. He was an artist. He would never tell you that, but he was so creative. If you saw my dad, you would always see a camera just sitting on his stomach, taking pictures. And I've been looking at pictures all week, and it's been so cool. Wood together, Taylor. That's right, wood. We did a lot of wood, 6 or 7 cords we would cut. Dad got really ticked off the electric company because they kept upping his prices. He said, that's it. I'll turn off my electric. We're going all heat with it. And so our upstairs was freezing cold while downstairs was extremely hot because of that wood stove. But dang it, we were warm, and he just stuck his, nose up in the air to the electric company. And it was awesome. But that wood also that we would cut, he made sure that I was able to use some of the money to buy my first car. Okay? My first saxophone. Because I love playing sax. He made sure that money went to that to help me out. And I still remember that first car. that first saxophone because we sold a lot of wood, thanks to my dad. Number 7, fishing. Where do I even start with fishing? We have so many memories of fishing with my father. And he could catch anything. Okay, I've tried fishing by myself, and I'm terrible at it. Okay, but when I was with my dad, I was an amazing guy at fishing. I could catch anything because he just had this knack, and I could just sit in the boat with my father all day long, just sit with him. Number 6, his advice. He gave me some cruel advice. Growing up. That's funny because the 2 things that I remember from his advice was, Phil, find what you love to do and stick with it. That was one of the things he told me. Find your passion, Phil, and stick with that. Because I know he struggled, especially with Worthington schools. He loved the kids, but it was hard. There were some hard times there and he was stressed. I remember him coming home stressed. But the most relaxed I saw my father was when he was in a fishing boat. That's when I saw my dad, just chilling. And that was his awesome advice to me. His other advice to me was, Phil, every 5 years you should change up what you're doing, whether it's a new job or change where you are, or just maybe buy something different, do something. Every 5 years change. Those are the 2 things I don't know that just, to me, just kind of rings in my ears to this day. His stories, my dad's stories were amazing. He has an amazing story, He lost his dad when he was 6. Grandma Krause married the mailman, I guess, a few months later. And, I get it. They knew each other for a long time. Grandpa Krause, he was amazing. His passion was to be a farmer, But you know what? God closed that door, and he ended up being in education. He worked his way, He met his amazing best friend, his wife, my mom, and their marriage was just incredible to me. Another thing is my mom and my dad, they were there for everything for us. Okay, even when our kids were born, my mom and dad were at the hospital. Every concert, every sport, even our kids, they never missed a kid's birthday, a grandkid's birthday. They were there, and he had his camera right there. And I just love that about them. Number 3, that was 4. Number 3 is this. I'm almost done, yes. He was so interested in what I was doing. He was interested in our kids. He was always asking how the kids were doing, how my granddaughter, how's Paula doing? Phil, what's going on in your class? What are you doing new? What's different? Tell me something new about it. So he's always passionately interested in our families and what we were doing, and we just had great conversations over that, and I just love that about him. Number 2 was vacations. I can't tell you about our vacations. We had so many, and we have pictures galore. Vacations of camping in good old Whispering Hills with our kids. The Stolls, we were in a tent. Of course, Mom and Dad were in their camper. Taking us to Florida when our kids were young. Paul and I, when I graduated from college, they took us down to Missouri, and we and down in Florida. We always had amazing vacations, and even growing up, vacations were amazing because we always had somebody, friends, Alita Keys, or was the Holzers, or Dan Peterson. Someone was always with us on vacation. Even when we go to visit Grandma and Grandpa Krause, Taylor Smith and Joyce and their family would come and hang out. Someone was always with us, and that was always special for me. And I'm on the last one, and this one speaks the most to me. His love for Mom was incredible. I can remember as a kid being home, and every day that phone would ring around lunchtime. Guess who it was? My dad calling Mom, checking in. And to me, that spoke huge to me, and I remember thinking, I want to have that kind of marriage someday. And I've been blessed to be married to my best friend for 34 years, my wonderful wife, and that marriage, his love for her spoke so much to me. Thank you.
Words cannot begin to express what a blessing it is that all of you took time out of your weekend to come and honor a life well lived. I want to see if any of these things may jog a memory or two. So, maple syrup, apple cider, applesauce, Concord grape jelly, homemade bread, homemade root beer, pickled watermelon rind. Any takers on that one?
Gross.
Corn cob jelly. Anybody? He liked to experiment.
Yeah.
These were the things that my dad used. His knowledge, his skills, his interests, and he would make connections with people. He used it in a way to show love and to bless others. Our dinner table was always a hub for practicing biblical hospitality. I thought it would be interesting to do an experiment, but I was told maybe that wouldn't be the best thing to maybe go around the room and have people show of hands if at any point in time you may have shared a meal at our home or been a recipient of some maple syrup or something like that. But by the nods and the I think there's a lot of us here in this room who were blessed by my mom and dad around our dinner table. And through this, they had a far-reaching impact. And they showed love. They showed their love for Jesus by loving others and inviting them into our home. Together, my parents lived out Romans 12, 9 through 13. This is one of the ways that I know that his love for Jesus was authentic. He built relationships. He blessed others by showing hospitality. Taking friends out fishing and even taking friends on vacation. I have so many fond memories of neighborhood parties, choir and orchestra parties, family gatherings, Sunday meals with pastors, teachers, and friends. My dad engaged our dinner guests in interesting conversations. He had extensive knowledge about particular interests and loved to share. Or perhaps sometimes he may have even bored a few folks with his love of genealogy. Speaking of genealogy, he planned many of his vacations and day trips, countless day trips, going around, visiting cemeteries and family reunions with the hope of finding connections to all of his family members. But the story that I will always cherish most, and I leave you with today, is the time that we traveled with them down to Georgia so that he could spend an entire day with people that he found out later we were not related to. Dad, I love you, I miss you so much, and look forward to the day when we will all be together again and will share a meal in glory. Thank you.
I'm Jake's brother, so I love Jake. That's beautiful. All right. I have been blessed to have so many great men in my life. My father, my uncles, pastors and mentors, and especially both my grandpas. My grandpa Stoll, who passed away just this past Monday, was one of those great men. He was a man with just so much, just growing up, every time we would go over to Grandma and Grandpa's house, we'd knock on the door, and then we'd hear this big, like, "Hey," or "Come in." Usually when you came in, you put your shoes down, you'd start walking through the hallway, you see all these pictures on the left-hand side. And it was all of his kids and grandkids. And he was so proud of all of us. You walk through the hall and you turn into the kitchen, you usually smelled something. Because there was a good family gathering, a big family gathering. You saw Grandma and Grandpa working hard in the kitchen for us. Those were great times. Also, when you go into his family room, you'd see all the pictures. Still more pictures of the adventures that Grandma and Grandpa had. And the stories that he told from that. His basement was a museum in itself. There were artillery guns all over the place, cameras from every generation. It was a mystical, magical place. It was so much fun growing up and going to Grandma and Grandpa's house. I was so blessed. Those were some of the best times for us grandkids. So many adventures. I'm hoping that in heaven I'll be able to go to Grandpa's big house and be able to see him in heaven, be able to hear his beautiful voice say, hey. And I know that he is in the house of the Lord today. He is in the house of the Lord. So, just like Grandpa said before he would say goodbye to all of us grandkids, I'll see you around like a meatball. Yeah. Love you, Grandpa.
I am the grandson. I wrote quite a plethora of words. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter just because I have something else planned. Thanks for all coming out, by the way. It means a lot to us and our family. My grandfather was someone that I looked up to my whole life. He is someone who could always talk to and someone to make you laugh and teach you a lot about stuff that you probably didn't know that you even knew. I have a big love for fishing because of him. It is like one of my most happiest things to do. Brings me a lot of happiness, and he taught me how to not be scared of the worm, like my brother. Just kidding. I was able to go and visit him with my mom and dad, and it was a little difficult, but we were able to sing some of his favorite hymns, and I got to pray over him. And I told him that next time I came in, that I would bring my piano and I'd play. But I'm gonna do that now.
Good afternoon. I'm the son of David, the youngest. Grandpa was a very special person to me. I spent a lot of time with him, and looking back, those were some very cherished and formative memories for me. He would substitute in the library at Worthington Christian, where I'd gone my whole life. And when he would do that, he would take me home from school. And we'd stop at Wendy's and get a frosty. To this day, that's like my favorite, like, fast ice cream. It's amazing. I remember he was so very generous with his time, his tools, generators, and his love for all of his grandchildren. No matter what we did, we'd always be there for us But the most influential thing in my life was his service to this country. He joined the Ohio Army National Guard, and he was in there from 1957 to 1963. Obviously, I followed in his footsteps a bit. He would tell me about the story of how he almost went to war in Cuba. They ended it right before he got there. Service to this country was ingrained in me from a very young age, and I owe it all to him. He'll be greatly missed by all of us. And I can't wait to see him again, when he can literally show me everyone that I'm actually related to face to face.
Okay, so
Oh, it's my turn.
Oh.
You've talked enough. Did you record that?
Yes.
Get rid of it now. You did not. Did you or not, Philip Stoll? I don't know what else I said after that.